What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Sweat. I've got 3 words for you. Football is back. That's right. It's finally week 1. Yes. And we are kicking it off right with multiple millionaire contests here at DraftKings. So on Sunday, we have 2 Milli Makers for you to enter, our $2.5 million prize pool contest, and then our huge $5 million prize pool contest, which is just $5 to enter. Both of those contests pay out $1 million to first place and could earn you a ticket to our DraftKings Tournament of Champions Live final coming up in January, where you can take another shot at $1 million. So go check them out now in the DraftKings lobby. All right, now, like I said, week 1, let's get into it with our NFL panel. DraftKings contributors Reed Fowler and Pierce Dietrich. Fellas, it's finally time for Thursday Night Football Best Bets. Music to my ears. So I need your favorite bets for tonight's Dallas-Tampa Bay game. So the line has been moving around all preseason, 6.5 to 9.5. Now the Bucs are 8.5-point favorites heading into the game. So Reed, who do you like here?
Yeah, Pierce, you're going to appreciate this as an academic. I feel like if you're on the Dallas side, it's like Odysseus and the Sirens. It's so enticing to take this large number on this offense that we think can be like last year. But newsflash, Tampa Bay's defense and their offense are really, really good. Second and third respectively, I would argue, in the NFL right now. And look, if Tampa Bay's defense did if they do what they did against Patrick Mahomes and a Kansas City offensive line, that was, also in the sort of same feeling, right? A couple of guys last year in the Super Bowl not in terms of injuries, the same as Zach Martin, the guard, right now who has PFF's one of their highest graded scores for a guard. Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh are going to have a field day with Dak Prescott. So I can't put my faith right now in this Dallas defense and Mike McCarthy, so I'm going to stay away from that line and go Tampa Bay, which sounds a lot weird. And banner teams, Pierce, the teams that win from last year, they usually don't lose. You're always scared about that backdoor cover, but they don't lose.
Wow, Pierce, are you going with the Bucs?
I'm a sucker for the hero's journey. It's in our human DNA, so I will take the Cowboys. This is too many points. I don't necessarily like the Cowboys, but this matchup, I think, is going to be very conservative. I think the teams are going to be a little bit rusty. I don't expect Tampa to come out and show everything that they've got. I don't see them throttling. I know Dallas has a bad defense. I just don't see a reason why Tampa Bay is going to reveal all their cards in week 1 when they can just play good defense, run the ball, and win this game easily. And I think Reed alluded to the way that this thing's going to work. You've got enough weapons on this Dallas team that they can get the backdoor cover here. So I hate that Zach Martin is out. It's not going to be pretty, but late in the game, the Cowboys will get the cover.
All right, Pierce, the over-under tonight is sitting at 51.5. So should we expect a shootout tonight? Do you possibly like the over here?
I don't. The line is moving in my direction. I know the public is expecting the shootout. Let me frame it this way. Forget everything we know. You've got a 43-year-old quarterback. You've got a great defense, a very capable running team. Do you expect a shootout? But here's the way that it's been framed. You've got the GOAT at quarterback, amazing weapons, a bad Dallas defense. So that's the story that people are hearing. That's what makes for good clickable articles and good social media chatter and good podcasts. Everyone's expecting the shootout. I will be the realist here and play the under.
Okay, Reed, it was sitting at 51. It moved to 51.5. What are we thinking here?
Yeah, Boomer appears here with the clickable, the CTRs and the articles. Who reads articles anymore? We write them, but who reads them? But look, I'm just kidding. Everyone does. I was sitting here ready to battle Pierce on why I think the under is a much better value when it comes to exactly what he was saying. I think Brady is actually 44, Pierce. So I think he's 1 year older, which potentially can make a difference. No, that doesn't matter. 60% of the tickets and I believe 51% of the money is on the over. So what do we always do? We always want to fade the public. Pierce is all, and both of us, right? I think don't buy into the narratives that this is going to be a shootout. What scares me, the same as the backdoor cover, is the amount of the rate in which the Dallas Cowboys are going to potentially have to pass the ball quite a bit towards the end of this game. That scares me a little bit, but I'm on the under here as well, even though it's scary with this Dallas defense and all of everybody coming back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Okay, so Reed, looking at the bets that are available on the DK Sportsbook, which quarterback prop do you like?
Yeah, I do like Dak Prescott going over his pass attempts. I think it's set right now at 39.5. And this is just because what I said earlier, Jesse, is that it's, you have to pay 125, minus 125. So you got to lay some juice here. I do think that Dallas is going to have to pass. I think not having Zach Martin, I think that's going to be a big deal. And it's going to ruin the run game mentality or plan that McCarthy and the Dallas Cowboys are going to have. I think when you have 3 wide receivers that are capable of being 1s and 2s on other teams, you're going to have to lean on that. And let's not forget about Blake Jarwin as well. He went down with an ACL tear in week 1 last season. I think he's also viable as well. So I do like the over 39.5 pass attempts, laying 125 for Dak.
All right, Pierce, what do we think? Which quarterback prop do you like?
I'm going to stick with my prop from the other day, and that's Tom Brady going under. And obviously, I'm following a trend here. I just don't see Tampa going out and really laying it on Dallas. I mean, there's no reason. This is week 1. I get it. Last year, Tampa, the team was gelling at the end of the season, but they were making it a playoff push. They got much more aggressive. They were passing early in the downs, and it worked for them. But you don't need to do that in week 1. Tom Brady's not going to make it through an entire season if he's dropping back 40 times a game. They're going to want to run the ball. They're going to want to play conservative. Let their defense win games. I just don't see it. I know that they can. I know that this defense will allow plenty of yards, but I just don't understand why Bruce Arians would decide to go heavy on the pass in this game.
All right, any other prop bets standing out to you, Pierce?
I like Ronald Jones under 11.5 rush attempts. Now, I know I've been talking about the run, but if you look at this Tampa backfield, Bruce Arians said it's a hell of a group. You've got Leonard Fournette, you've got Ronald Jones, you got Keyshawn Vaughn, who can't even get on the field, but he's got plenty of talent. Gio Bernard. Oh, by the way, they've got a handful of good receivers. There's just so many ways that Ronald Jones just doesn't get an opportunity to run the ball. I know he got a lot of work at the end of the season last year, but that was because it was the postseason push. Early in the year, why would you want to run Ronald Jones into the ground? Save his legs for the end of the season. I like going under on his rush attempts.
Reed, what do we think? Any other prop bet standing out to you here?
Yeah, I think teasing down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, if you want to, is viable, just so you can really cover all your bases here. But I do think, and this is kind of going to my under/over bet in terms of the game total, I really like the under in the first half, 26.5 at minus 110. I do think that the Cowboys and Dak have to speed it up in the second half just because of what Tampa Bay is going to be able to do. And so if you take a look at both of the numbers, Jesse, the total and then the halves, they both came down. Like it's just one that you do like. 26.5, 27 I think is a key number. So getting on the under in that I think is absolutely viable. Dallas's defense is going to struggle versus Tampa Bay offense, and their secondary too, guys. 26th in PPFs and PFF score. Excuse me. This secondary is not going to be able to stop this 3-headed monster. And let's not forget Antonio Brown. All the guys in the camp, narrative street here, Pierce. Looks like he was as fast as he was 4 or 5 years ago. So watch out for Antonio Brown in week 1 as well.
We love narrative street here. All right, hit me with your favorite bet for the opener tonight, Reed. What is it?
Yeah, it's going to be that under. It's going to be the under right now for the game total. I just think there's so much value there. I think, like Pierce was saying, the narratives, people think it's going to be a shootout. I don't like it at all. So give me a better number on the under.
Pierce, what do we think?
Leonard Fournette over 34.5 rushing yards. This is a way too low of a number for the game script that I'm predicting. Dallas, yeah, they struggle against the pass, but they're also 24th rush DVOA. They made some defensive changes, but I don't think it's going to be enough to keep him under that number. Leonard Fournette looked really good at the end of last season. And, like the rest of the players in Tampa, I think he's going to have a monster season this year.
But Pierce, Gio Bernard. What about Gio Bernard? He's there.
Yeah, I don't think, though, he's going to cut into his action inning.
No, he's not.
Yeah, not really worried about that. All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Before we get to the MLB slate tonight, let's hop on the bus and chat with NFL Hall of Famer Jerome "The Bus" Bettis about the NFL season and see which game he's most excited about for Week 1.
Joining us now as Hall of Fame running back and Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Bus, Jerome Bettis. Jerome, the NFL season is almost here, so we need your take on some of the players, some of the games, some of the storylines we are all looking forward to watching when the NFL season kicks off. Again, you spent 13 seasons as a running back in the NFL, known for your bruising running back style. The position has changed a little bit, though, over the years. So who do you think is the best running back in the league right now, and why?
Now, it's a difficult, question for me because, I would love to say Derrick Henry and Nick Chubb, the physical downhill runners. But because the way the game has changed, I have to go with right now Alvin Kamara in terms of what he's able to do receiving the football, what he's able to do running the football, in between the tackles, outside the tackles. He can throw it. He can do it all. So I think as a complete running back, Alvin Kamara is definitely the guy.
Yeah, for sure. Christian McCaffrey's another one of those guys who could do all of that.
Yeah, the problem, I would love to say Christian McCaffrey, but he's been hurt off the field. So when you say who's the best, you got to go with a guy who just did it last year, who's fresh in your mind. We've got to go back a while for Christian, only because he's been banged up. I think he is sensational, dynamic, one of the best in the league when healthy. That's the only thing you have to say because he wasn't out there. Just like Saquon Barkley, I want to put him in the conversation. But he didn't play last year, so I can't put him in the conversation just yet.
Going to be a little bit more of a challenge for a lot of these guys to stay healthy this year too, Bus, because the NFL making the switch to a 17-game season. Do you think this is a disadvantage to more physical players like a Derrick Henry, for instance?
It is a disadvantage. Obviously, there's one more game on the schedule and one more game that you can get hurt. So it is something to think about, and it's something that the players have to be conscious of because that one extra game it does mean an awful lot physically. So they've got to do it. But once you're in the heat of the season, just one more game is just one more game, and so you keep going. Me on the outside looking in, I say, yeah, one more game means another 30 to 40 hits on your body, which can take a toll. But when those guys are in the heat of the battle, they're not thinking about it. Like, bring it on. So I think they don't have a problem with it, but me looking at it from outside saying it could be an issue.
Well, yeah, speaking of you looking at, let's turn back the clock. What kind of impact would this have had on you with the way that you played?
Well, it would have had a big impact on me. Obviously, physically, it would have been a challenge for me. But, again, as a football player, you look at it one way. So I would have looked at it as, hey, this is an opportunity for me to get more yards, have a bigger season, bigger numbers. So I'm thinking about it, from the running back perspective, just like these guys will be. 17 games, man, I can definitely get to 2,000 yards in the season. That's what these guys are thinking. Me, as an analyst, I look at it and say, boy, it can be dangerous. You guys got to be careful. You need to think about this. So it's two totally different perspectives. If I'm the running back, I'm like, hey, I get a chance to get more numbers. If I am an analyst, I'm saying not so much.
All right, well, let's hear you analyze the defending Super Bowl champions right now. The Buccaneers, they open the season against the Cowboys on September 9th. So Tom Brady is going to be playing in his 22nd NFL season at the age of 44. I know, he's just 5 years younger than you, man. Does he and the Bucs, do they have what it takes to make a run at a repeat?
They definitely have what it takes. They brought back all 22 starters, never been done before. So you're looking at this team, you're saying, they got a chance to repeat, a legitimate chance to repeat, because now this team is going to come out with a totally different swagger. Last year, it was, we think we can. We've got a chance to. We've got Tom Brady. Now they're coming out saying, we're the champs. You got to beat us. And you're going to see a totally different football team because of the confidence that they're going to be exuding when they hit the football field. So I expect to see a very, very good Tampa Bay team. And when Tom Brady's at the helm, they always have a chance, regardless of what the defense looks like, regardless of what the offense looks like. With Tom Brady at the helm, you always have a shot.
And it's got to be such a huge boost now that he has a full year in the system. You have a regular offseason as well. I remember last year they were 7-5, ripped off 4 straight wins after that. When they were 7-5, people were burying them. They said there's no way this team could get it done. But now Tom Brady just has a whole nother year under his belt.
Yeah, and Tom is the master of manipulation. He understands how to motivate his team. And he motivates them through him, right? He said, hey, oh, you guys think I'm washed up? You think I'm done? My teammates are going to take care of me. They're going to get me going. And all he's doing is psychologically getting his guys ready because he knows he's going to be ready. And so he does all of those type of things to get him ready. And he has been on both sides of the spectrum. He's been that team scrapping to try to get to the top, and they were able to do that. But he's also been that player that's went for a repeat multiple times. So he knows what that looks like as well.
Yep.
So they have the benefit of having a leader who knows the situation they're in and knows how to get them going. So I think that's a great advantage that they have looking for opportunity to repeat.
It's more than 2 decades in. He's still playing with a chip on his shoulder. It's going to be one of the best games of week one, but which other games are you most looking forward to here?
Well, for me, it's Kansas City and Cleveland.
Yep.
You know, obviously you go back to the AFC Championship game last year and you look at, what they were able to do. I don't know if that was the AFC Championship game, but it was a playoff game last year, and they were in Kansas City. And I'll tell you what, Cleveland came to play. They knocked Mahomes out of the game, had a chance to really win that football game. And I think they want that opportunity one more time. So looking at this football game, I think it's going to be dynamic. You got stars littered over the football field, offensively and defensively on both sides of the football. So I think this game is just going to be extraordinary. I'm looking forward to it, really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that team is going to be very, very much improved compared to, I think, what we've seen in years past. But let's focus in on the team that you played most of your career with and won a championship with. That would be the Steelers. They have one of the deepest wide receiving cores in the league. How does having all of that talent at the wide receiver position actually help a running back like, let's say, rookie Najee Harris?
So what it does is it forces team to play the offense much differently. When you have that type of talent on the wide receiver position, now you have to address that. You have to change the defensive philosophy in terms of usually when you play the Pittsburgh Steelers, you want to put 8 guys in the box, you want to stuff the run and force them to throw the football. Well, now with all these special receivers that they have with the ability to make plays versus man-to-man and one-on-one coverage, now you say, we got to get these guys some help. So that leaves that front seven vulnerable to the running game. And I think Najee Harris has an opportunity to really do some special things and make some big-time plays in this offense because everybody has to pay attention to Ben Roethlisberger and the passing game.
Yeah, I was going to say, there is no shortage of weapons there for Big Ben. He can look all over the place.
As promised, I am back with our MLB panel. DraftKings contributors Gary and Thorne, Matt Meiselman, and RotoWire's Eric Halterman. You know the drill, guys. It's time for MLB Cover the Bases. Getting your favorite DFS and sportsbook plays for tonight. So first base is your favorite DFS pitcher. Gary, and who are we going with?
Not as strange to do this on a slate this small, but I'm going to go with someone kind of in the mid-tier. Let's go with Ranger Suarez of the Philadelphia Phillies. We all know how much the Rockies struggle on the road. They come into this game ranking dead last in baseball in OPS, WRC+, and WOBA on the road. However, it's that first game on the road. That's when the Coors effect, quote unquote, really does seem to come into play, when those breaking pitches start breaking a little differently than they did on that 6-game homestand. So I just think this is a pretty good spot for any pitcher to be in. And Ranger Suarez has really done a miraculous thing so far this season. He's successfully and seamlessly transitioned from the bullpen to the rotation. The 7 starts he's made for the Phillies, 1.71 ERA. His FIP is below 3. So while there is some normalization baked in there, he's still pitching really, really well. His strikeout rate is slightly above average. I just think there's a lot to like here, and Suarez has been pitching well. High win expectancy in a home game. So I'll take him at $7,400 against an offense that we know cannot hit outside of the altitude.
All right, Matt, 5-game slate, 10 pitchers. Who we going with?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to like in this particular price range where Ranger Suarez is. There's a couple pitchers around 7K that actually seem pretty appealing. You have John Means there at 7,100, and then Jesus Luzardo at 6,700, who's actually managed to hold it together, I think, for 2 starts in a row, which is a pretty good streak for him. But I like John Means the most, and the biggest reason why is just who he's facing and the likely ownership on the other side. The Royals have been drawing a lot of attention lately, in part because Mondesi has come off the IL, and Sal Perez has just been maybe the best hitter in the MLB for the last month or so. So I think the Royals end up as a pretty popular stack, and then you get leverage with Means. But aside from that, a lot of these pitchers are very similar in this price range, so it's really just a tiebreaker to pick Means ahead of guys like Suarez and Luzardo. I think they're all similarly capable of doing well, but the leverage against the Royals, I think, puts Means a little bit over the top for me.
All right, Eric, which of these 10 pitchers are you going with?
Yeah, I'm going to join Gary in here. I think Ranger Suarez at 7,400 is really quite a good deal, even if you don't include the fact that he's facing a Rockies lineup, which ranks last in WRC Plus on the season. The one area of disagreement I have with Gary is that I wouldn't quite describe Suarez's move as seamless, but I'm still on him tonight. His first 4 starts this season, he did only have a 2.45 ERA initially after that move from the bullpen, but only 11 strikeouts against 10 walks suggested that maybe it was a lot of smoke and mirrors and that he would fall back soon. But instead of falling back to his peripherals, he's actually just improved his peripherals. If you look at his last 3 starts, 19 strikeouts against just 5 walks with 28.4% strikeout rate over that stretch. The ground ball rate has gone down, but was still above 50% there. And on the season, he's one of the rare guys who is above average in strikeout rate and also way above average in ground ball rate. The one main worry with Suarez is that he did leave a little bit early in his last start with triceps tightness, but the Phillies called it precautionary. And I think in general, if they call it precautionary and he doesn't even miss a single start, I think we should probably believe him. So that's, I think, the main risk there. But on the whole, given his numbers, even though he's nowhere near as good as his 1.38 ERA suggests, 7,400 is just too cheap for what he's been this season.
All right, Matt, second base is your favorite DFS hitter. Are you paying all the way up to 6,300 for Bryce Harper as the most expensive guy on this slate?
I don't have a problem with him, but I do think there are some hitters cheaper than him that are going to go overlooked, and a lot of it is just recent performance. The Yankees are at home against Jose Barrios, and this is a game that could have some weather concerns, so this may be a moot point anyway, but the Yankees have just been so bad lately. But we know, and this is something that probably all of us here talked about around the trade deadline, is that the Yankees are going to be high variance because they have hitters who swing for the fences, they're built on home runs, and they're going to go through slumps just because they have hitters who strike out a lot and are relying on home runs. And we're in that part of the season now where the Yankees just haven't done well for an extended period of time. But I don't think it indicates anything as far as the actual talent level here. So I think the field will be off the Yankees because they haven't done well and because Barrios is a big name. But this is still a bunch of great power hitters at home, Yankee Stadium. And if the weather holds, I think Aaron Judge, 5,500, because of his price tag in particular, his ownership comes in way lower most likely. So I like Judge a lot, but I think that you basically can't go wrong with any of the Yankees outfielders. So Gallo, Stanton, good plays in my mind too. But Judge, for the most part, I think is my favorite hitter on the entire slate.
5,500 for him. Eric, where are you going for your favorite DFS hitter?
Yeah, I'm back after a few days off the show with news of this young Nationals hitter named Juan Soto. He seems pretty good. I think we should keep an eye on his career. You don't really need to be reminded that Juan Soto is excellent, but I'll mention him here because I think people might be a little bit turned off of the matchup against Huascar Ynoa. If you remember how good Ynoa was early in the season, you might think, all right, fine, this is a day to not go with Soto. But Ynoa just hasn't quite been that guy in 9 appearances before. He punched a wall, something like that, broke his hand, had a 3.02 ERA, only a 3.52 ERA in the 4 starts since his return. But his strikeout rate has fallen from 27.9% before the stint on the injured list to just 23.3% now. So over 4.5 percentage points. He's still a fine pitcher, but if he's merely a league average strikeout rate guy, a little bit better than league average in ground ball rate and walk rate, that's not the kind of pitcher who should scare you away from a guy as talented as Juan Soto. And Soto's as locked in as he's ever been. Twice as many walks as strikeouts in the second half. If you look at just his last 11 games, 14 walks against just 2 strikeouts. I think that's just ridiculous. I think that's probably one of the best ways of looking at just how well a guy is seeing the ball right now. And I don't remember a stretch of even 11 games where anybody's dominated that much. And of course, he also has 4 homers and 12 runs batted in those 11 games, despite not really having much talent around him to drive in. So he's, as talented as anybody out there and in as good a form as we've ever seen. I would not be scared to use him against a mediocre version of Huascar Ynoa.
All right, Gary, and where are you going? Who's your favorite DFS hitter?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Pete Alonso at $4,800. Alonso's been red hot. His last 22 games, he's got a .698 slugging percentage and a .191 WRC+. He's also hit left-handed pitching exceedingly well so far in 2021. He's got a .357 isolated power within the split. Luzardo has looked better his last 2 starts, as Matt talked about, but for the season as a whole, over 2 home runs per 9 to opposing right-handed hitters. The other thing I like a lot about Alonso is when you look at how first base sets up tonight from an ownership perspective, I think you're going to get a lot of people going with Freddie Freeman because the Braves have the highest implied run total on the slate. You're also going to get people gravitating towards Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at $5,400 because he's red hot and hit a ball like 500 miles per hour off of Aroldis Chapman last night. So I just think Alonso's going to come in a little less popular than he should be considering the form he's in right now.
All right, guys, third base. Let's move on over to the sports book. I need your favorite run line or money line bet. Eric, which one are you going with?
I'm liking the Royals plus 100, so even money against the Orioles. I think mainly that's because I'm not trusting John Means these days. In 10 starts since returning from his shoulder injury, he has an ERA of 5.51. FIP is even slightly worse than that. So really the form he showed early in the year, which even led to a no-hitter, is just not there. His strikeout rate has collapsed again, back down under 20% over that stretch. He doesn't walk anybody, but when you only strike out 19.3% of opposing batters and you don't keep the ball on the ground well at just 34.2%, there's only so much a lack of walks can do. I mean, that's like a Cole Irvin type profile, which is not what we thought we were going to get from John Means early in the season. Carlos Hernandez on the other side is at least interesting. I think he's gotten some low-level buzz since he entered the rotation at the start of the second half. 2.94 ERA in 9 appearances is probably better than he deserves according to some of the peripherals, but there's definitely some promise there. Strikeout rate is a bit low at 20.4% and more or less league average at walks and ground balls, so I don't think he's anything all that exciting, but he's been basically as good as Means, or he's been better really than Means so far in the second half. And with 2 similarly not close to top tier lineups, maybe the Royals are a little bit more interesting with Mondesi back, although they started from a lower place without him. So you call it maybe a wash there, and I think I take Hernandez actually as slightly better than Means in the second half.
All right, Gary, and where are you going, with a run line or a money line bet?
So I should make the disclaimer that I was really, really trying not to be a massive homer for this particular question. However, we have limited games on this slate, and the Jays are at even money, having won 7 consecutive games. I think in general, the Yankees getting swept in a 4-game series at home seems unlikely. However, in a vacuum, I think the Jays have the advantage on both sides of the baseball today. Nestor Cortes has been better than anyone could have possibly imagined. However, his past 6 starts, while the ERA has been fine, he's got a 5.02 xFIP in that span of time. He is begging to just get annihilated in a start, and I think the Jays are probably the team that's going to do that, considering they come into this matchup with the best WOBA in baseball across the past 2 weeks. Obviously, it wouldn't be a shock if the Yankees do bounce back here, but again, at even money, I think you just have to roll with the hot team.
All right, Matt, what do we think?
So Eric mentioned the Nationals, and I actually do like them for DFS too, but ultimately I think Soto may even be more popular than some of these Yankees outfielders just with the recent performance there. But for betting purposes, I do like the Nationals. I think one of the things we're seeing here is that at this point in the season, the betting public shapes the betting lines a little bit just because of the standings, and the Braves have a ton to play for. and the Nationals have nothing to play for. But even so, we've seen this line actually come down a bit from plus 195 to plus 180. And I think there may still be some value there, although it's shrinking up. But the most bettors for sure are on the Braves side of this game, and it's still moving towards Washington. I think Huascar Ynoa is a little bit overrated, and I think Eric Fedde might be a little underrated. He's been a lot better in the second half of the season. But this is more just about the Braves not being as good as their record. They've kind of pieced this team together with the Ronald Acuna injury, and I still do think they're a very good team, but a few of their pitchers are overrated, and Ynoa in particular. So it's not that I expect the Nationals to win, but I do think this money line is a little bit high.
All right, home plate, take us home. What is your favorite game total, Garion?
I'll go with the team total. Let's just talk Rockies under. It's set at 3.5. I like the under at minus 130. Again, I think Ranger Suarez is in a nice spot here, but this mainly goes back to the fact the Coors effect is a real thing. And I think coming off a long homestand, the Rockies are just going to really struggle the first game away from the altitude. The stats speak for themselves. They have been absolutely awful on the road. They cannot hit. They can barely hit in the altitude. So Rockies under 3.5 runs.
All right, Matt, what do we think? Favorite game total?
Yeah, this one's confusing because the Yankees and Jays total opened at 9.5 and it's down to 8.5. And I actually thought 9.5 was too low. Nestor Cortes, like Garion mentioned, is probably not a great pitcher, but I also think the Yankees are just undervalued to a very large degree right now because of how poorly they've hit in recent games. So this just seems like it seems like a pitching matchup that is really overvalued on both sides. And a lot of what could be going on here is that we don't know if George Springer will play. He's been out the last couple of games, but could be back tonight. So if he plays, that adds a lot more interest for me in the over for this game. But I just feel like there's so much potential for offense. These are two of the best lineups in the MLB, maybe the two best if they're both healthy. And the pitching matchup is kind of underwhelming to me. I think Barrios is good, but he's not great. And I think Cortes is probably about a league average pitcher. So there's a lot of potential for home runs in this game. It's Yankee Stadium, so of course, good place to hit. And I think this one could go way over the total. You know, it could also have a lot of strikeouts and no one does anything because there is a lot of home run reliance from these teams. But I think more often than not, we see a high-scoring game out of this matchup.
All right, Eric, take us home. Favorite game total?
Yeah, there's a lot of low totals for games that don't have two strong pitchers in them. But I'm going to go with the lowest one here. Mets Marlins. I'm going to take the over at 7.5. I know Miami has a very pitcher-friendly park. I know Marcus Stroman is quite good, although his 2.93 ERA is about half a run or more better than what most of the ERA estimators say he should be at. And he hasn't actually been a guy who's outperformed those peripherals over the course of his career. Even so, a guy whose true talent might be a 3.50 ERA should be enough to shut down a lineup like the Marlins. But on the other side, I just don't have faith in Jesus Luzardo this season. Matt mentioned earlier that he has been better lately. 2 starts ago, he was excellent. 6 shutout innings, 1 hit, 8 strikeouts. His last time out, 3 runs in 5.2 innings isn't terrible, but just 3 strikeouts against 2 walks doesn't tell me that he's really totally figured things out. And if you look at those 7 starts with the Marlins, a 7.15 ERA, striking out just 19.4% of opposing batters while walking 12.5%. I think that's just too shaky to reliably keep this under 7.5, even against a Mets lineup that's disappointed for much of the season.
All right, that'll do it for baseball. Thank you, gents. The NFL isn't the only type of football that's back. College ball is already heading into week 2, and Julian Edlow will join me to give his picks after this quick break. College football is already heading into week 2, and here to give his favorite bets for the second week of action is DraftKings contributor Julian Edlow. Jules, matchup of the week, number 12 Oregon at number 3 Ohio State. Big spread right now. Ohio State are 14.5-point favorites. So who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I mean, it just goes to show us those elite programs, the top 5 or so, in the nation what the gap is between the rest of the country. Oregon's a pretty good team. They struggled a little bit in week 1 to squeak by and now go on the road to the Horseshoe. This is their Super Bowl. If they make any noise this season, it's by coming in here and having a good showing against Ohio State. So the Buckeyes are going to get the Ducks' best shot in this one. The number's wild. Like they want you to take that 14.5, right? Lose by 2 touchdowns, you still cash this one. I can't do it. I can't bet against Ohio State after seeing what that offense looked in the first half. I mean, the freshman quarterback didn't even look good in the first half, made some mistakes. Minnesota led at halftime. And then those big plays that Ohio State ripped off. This one for me, this is Ohio State or nothing. And if that hook scares you, maybe just go to the alternate lines and lay the 14 so that you don't have to go all the way to 14.5. But I will not bet against the Buckeyes, especially at home.
All right, so top 10 matchup, rivalry game. Iowa getting 4.5 points on the road against Iowa State. Can Iowa win as a road underdog?
Of course they can win. It's a rivalry game that we see every year, and Iowa State has had a lot of trouble with it in the past. But for me, this is the year that Iowa State needs to take it, and they know that. And I like that Iowa's coming into this game a little bit hyped up. They had the huge week 1 victory, smashing Indiana in a game with a pretty close point spread. And now that hype is there. The look-ahead line at times touched 7 in this game, and now it actually went down to 3.5 after the thrashing that Iowa gave Indiana. Went up to 5.5, now kind of settles at 4.5. I will lay the 4.5 with the home favorite in this spot, Iowa State, just because it feels like the books don't want to move this number. It feels like the sportsbook doesn't want to move this number. We see from at least the last splits I got from DK Sportsbook, about 70% of the bets, 70% of the money are on the underdog road Iowa team here. And yet this number won't creep down to 3, where everybody's kind of trying to wait and get it if you like Iowa State at home. So forget getting the good number. I'll just lay the 4.5 here with Iowa State.
All right, primetime game, another Big Ten Pac-12 matchup. Who do you like in Washington versus Michigan?
Yeah, I'm in trouble here. I am between a rock and a hard place. I had Phil Steele, college football expert, on the Unreasonable Odds podcast over the summer. His biggest surprise team was Washington, took him over 8.5 wins. They lose outright to Montana at home in week 1. I almost cried, but we need to move on. Phil Steele told me by the time we get to this game, Washington's going to look good. Michigan maybe a little bit of a down year. Washington's going to be favored by a field goal in this game. Well, we're 10 points away from that now. So I took Washington at even money in this game. And here we are, 7 points later. So for me, I think the value's there on Washington. It's only 1 week in. I need to see more. I will gladly take the value here and take the +7 with Washington, who I still think is the better team. The quarterback threw 3 interceptions against Montana at home in week 1, and yet waiting on the bench is the freshman Sam Howard, who is related to his father played at Washington, played in the NFL. His uncle played at Washington, played in the NFL at quarterback. This kid's a talented prospect. I think they're going to make the move at quarterback, and that's going to make the difference in this game. I still think Washington can win, and I think getting the 7 points is value that we certainly weren't expecting at this stage in the season.
All right, Jules, what's your favorite game total this week out of everyone that you're looking at?
Yeah, to be honest, I haven't bet a total this year, and I don't know if I'm going to bet a total this week, but the Georgia one all the way down at 45.5 does stand out to me a little bit. They didn't let Clemson score 3 points. They were unbelievable, and now there's maybe some COVID concerns with Georgia. Some guys might be out there. You have a UAB team that scored 31 in their season opener against Jackson State, I think it was, but they shut them out. Not that it's anything like Georgia, but they can play a little bit of defense. At 45, and with what Georgia has going on, you could maybe convince me for a really low under in that game, especially because Georgia is just not going to let teams score this year.
All right, what about your favorite bet of the week?
Favorite bet of the week is an easy one. Last week we gave out NC State -19 as the unreasonable odds play, and if it hit, we would get to give away 5 $100 free bets on DK Sportsbook. NC State mopped the floor with South Florida, 145-0. I think this team is being extremely undervalued in the market early here. 2.5-point road favorites against an SEC team, sure, but Mississippi State, 21-point home favorite in week 1, squeaked by La Tech by 1 point, so they underperformed. NC State, 10 starters back on defense, top 3 running backs back, top 3 receivers back. They have skilled position guys with experience all over the field, a really good defense. I think NC State goes in here and covers that 2.5-point spread against Mississippi State, another convincing victory.
All right, thank you, Jules. Quick break here, and then we're going to take a look at the showdown contest for the Dallas-Tampa Bay game. The Sweat will return. Welcome back to The Sweat. I'm Jessie Coffield. They're DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich and RotoWire's AJ Scholes. And it's time to break down tonight's Thursday Night Football showdown contest between Dallas and Tampa Bay. So, Jeff, start us off with who you like in the captain spot. Remember, 1.5 times the salary for 1.5 times the points.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Big contest tonight on DraftKings to kick things off, obviously. And, we got to approach this showdown format from the fact, we got to beat like 50,000 plus people here. I like going with the Cowboys skill players in the captain's position. Specifically, I like going with the little bit of a discount you're getting on Amari Cooper. I know there's a lot of talk around the league. CeeDee Lamb, is he going to be the guy there right now? I don't really buy into that personally. I still feel like Amari Cooper is the alpha of that group. He's the best player of that group when he's healthy. And I don't know if he's the best player wide receiver in the league, like he says, but I definitely think that, all things that we've seen from Amari Cooper in the last couple weeks here, he's been practicing in full. He's not on the injury report, even played in the preseason game. It's really good news, from the ankle perspective. So I don't think there's anything to worry about. And I think that we can buy into the little bit of fear here. I do think CeeDee Lamb is going to be more heavily owned. And you look at this matchup with Tampa, yeah, they're a good defense. Is their secondary that good? At times, they've been burned in the past. This same group, they've been actually terrible. Guys like Tyreek Hill putting up 1 billion points against them. So I think this is a gettable matchup for Amari Cooper. I think the Cowboys are going to be in a lot of pass-happy situations late in this game. And I think that putting Amari Cooper in the captain saves you a lot of money over going over one of the quarterbacks in there.
All right, AJ, what do we think? Who do you like in the captain spot?
Honestly, Jeff might have just convinced me to change everything. Contrarian play, obviously. And he talked about all the reasons to go with Amari Cooper over Lamb, and I'll say nothing wrong about what Jeff said, because it certainly could work. The problem is the Buccaneers are the heavy favorites in this game, and I think they're going to come out on top. I think Dallas will keep it a little bit closer than we might expect if you're going straight money line. A whole different segment here, but maybe you look at Dallas. But for your captain here, I just can't get off Tom Brady. I know he's the biggest price tag. I know it's going to create problems for the rest of my lineup. But, there's just too many question marks around who's going to get the running back shares there, Fournette or Ronald Jones. You could obviously look at Mike Evans if you want to save a little bit here, but his numbers are dependent on Brady having a good game. So I just can't move off Tom Brady in this one. Is it the contrarian play that could work out for you like Jeff has there with Amari Cooper? Absolutely not. But I think you have to go with it here.
All right, so who are you stacking then with your captain, AJ?
Well, I'm going to stack him with Evans. I mean, again, tough ask to build out the rest of your lineup here when you're spending that much up at the top. But the Cowboys gave up the 5th most fantasy points to wide receivers last season at 43.4 per game. Obviously, if you captain Evans, then you could put Brady here in this spot if you want to go that route a little bit different. But I do think this is a good opportunity for these guys to get going right away, have a big game right off the hop, and really benefit you in terms of your lineup.
All right, Jeff, who are you stacking with Amari Cooper?
Yeah, so, I mean, look, the obvious answer is you stack him with his quarterback. Everybody knows if you're putting Amari Cooper in the cap, you should probably play Dak Prescott as well. But let's think about this from the other perspective. If Amari Cooper's having a big game, probably means Dallas is down late in this game at some point, or it's a close, high-scoring contest. AJ's alluded to it. It's hard to pinpoint which skill players on Tampa outside of Brady, because he's the quarterback, is going to touch the ball or score. So why not go with the cheaper running back in Ronald Jones? Ronald Jones out-touched Leonard Fournette 35-20 in red zone opportunities last year. I know we saw playoff Lenny, and he's got the momentum coming in, but early in the season last year, Bruce Arians went to Ronald Jones. And again, we're in the regular season, we're not in the playoffs. I think Ronald Jones has a very, very good chance of getting a touchdown in this game. So, around 5K in price there. Again, going to be much lower owned than a lot of these other Tampa skill players. I like that as a correlation play with Amari Cooper in my captain spot.
All right, so what's your next favorite play over 6K, Jeff?
Over 6K or under 6K?
Mine says over my script. So
okay, no, fair enough. Hey, I just wanted to make
and
sure
that's what the graphic says. So
I am so sorry for questioning you, Jesse. I don't know why I would ever do that.
It's crazy of you, but
yeah, I know.
I'll let it slide.
Look, obviously I like Amari Cooper, but we don't need to talk more about him. My sort of advice here would be if you're paying up, and AJ has alluded to this, you pay up for the quarterbacks. So Dak Prescott and Tom Brady would be the guys I would be targeting over 6K. If you look at the Tampa Bay wide receivers, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, but we haven't even talked about like guys like Scotty Miller, Gronk, Antonio Brown. This is just such a loaded group. I don't want to guess where the ball is going. I want to pay up for the quarterbacks. You also have a rushing quarterback in Dak Prescott. We know we're going to get some cheap rush yards there. Brady, very, very good in the openers as well, averaging over 286 yards and 2.6 touchdowns in his last 3 season openers. Pay up for the quarterbacks, then you take the value with the rest of the skill positions.
All right, AJ, who is your next favorite play over 6K?
Well, for me, I actually like looking at Zeke Elliott. Look, I know if they get ahead, you could see more passing situations, but he's capable of being a third down back. He could be used in those passing spots as well. And look, at the end of the day, Mike McCarthy isn't a guy who's exactly known for switching up the game plan if they're trailing in a game, right? He's going to run the ball and give it to Zeke Elliott and find ways to get him integrated if they do need to go a little more pass heavy. So I don't mind paying up for Zeke Elliott here in this spot.
All right, what about your favorite value play, AJ? Where are you going to be looking in this contest for value?
Well, I know it's probably overdone, maybe a little cliche at this point, but I'm 100% continuing to look at Gronk in this spot. He cost you just $5,400. Everything has been made about his relationship with Tom Brady. And yes, some opportunities could go to Cameron Brate or O.J. Howard, but look, he led the team in tight end targets last season with 77. That's more than Brate, Howard, and a couple other tight end guys who got targets last year combined. And until Tom Brady shows me otherwise by targeting a different tight end, I think Gronk is the guy to look to. And yes, as Jeff said, there's a lot of guys looking for a maximum amount of touches here. But I think Gronk is one person that obviously he's familiar with, he's comfortable with. I would expect him and Evans to maybe be the 1-2 in terms of targets in this game.
Jeff, when you're looking at value, where are you going?
Oh, did you say value? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Over 6K. No, I'm just kidding.
I like both the tight ends, especially in the big field GPPs. Like, I think Blake Jarwin is definitely really interesting as a big field sort of tournament play that you're going to get for like under 15% ownership, and Gronk as well. But I think the best play under 6K is definitely Antonio Brown for value. I mean, again, by all reports, this guy he's integrated himself into Bruce Arians' good graces, which is a big thing with like a veteran head coach like that. Bruce Arians saying, he's moving like he's like, in his 20s again here. And the relationship with Gronk and Brady, it's a thing. The relationship with Antonio Brown and Brady is a bit of a thing too. I'm expecting Antonio Brown to take a bigger share from guys like Godwin and Evans this year. And, I'm not suggesting that Mike Evans and Godwin are going to be straight fades or they're not just going to catch any balls in this game, but when you look at the prices here, it's just hard to look away from Antonio Brown. If he does come up in target share even a little bit, we know the explosiveness. Dallas' secondary, it's not deep. And it's not deep enough to stop a guy like Antonio Brown if he's just going to be out there a little bit more making havoc in the slot. So I think Brown is by far the best value on the slate.
All right, good stuff, guys. Thank you so much. One more segment to go here on The Sweat. We're looking at the best bets available in the U.S. Open semifinal matches with none other than Kenny Ducey. What's up, everybody? DraftKings contributor Kenny Ducey is here to give his favorite plays in the men's and women's semifinal matches at the U.S. Open, so let's do it. Second-ranked Ariana Sabalenka is a minus 330 favorite in the women's semifinal match against Leylah Annie Fernandez. Any chance Fernandez can pull off the upset here, Kenny?
Jesse, I don't see it happening. I know that the line has moved a little bit to reflect some confidence in Fernandez. She's awesome. She did not come out of nowhere. She's had a great year. She won down in Monterey. Very talented, but Sabalenka is a different beast than the players that she's been taking down. I know the list: Osaka, Angie Kerber, and Alina Svitolina, but Sabalenka, the way she is striking the ball right now makes her a very, very difficult out. I would take a look at the under here. I mean, Barbara Krejcikova was playing better than anybody in the tournament besides Sabalenka, and got absolutely railroaded in the quarterfinal. I was very impressed. So I'm going to go with Sabalenka here. I would look at the under 20.5 games.
All right, second women's semifinal is Emma Raducanu versus 17 Maria Sakkari. Now, what's your favorite bet in this one?
Yeah, look, Emma's been fantastic at this tournament, but when you look at the level of competition that she's taken out, again, Shelby Rogers, she did take out Ash Barty, but not the highest level. Sakkari played one of the best matches that I've seen in years against Karolina Pliskova. I mean, just absolutely dominant after coming through against Bianca Andreescu in 3 tough sets, a player that had never lost at the U.S. Open. I think it's disrespectful to see this line at minus 145. When we really look at the level of these two yesterday, Sakkari blew Emma Raducanu out of the water. Minus 145 is way too low. I would definitely take that line.
All right. Friday, men's semifinal favorite bet for Medvedev versus Felix. Felix. I'm not even going to.
Aliassime.
Okay.
You can call him FAA.
Say it again.
Auger Aliassime. You can just call him FAA. That's his nickname.
That was beautiful. Yeah.
He's Canadian. Look, I think that he's going to lose. It's not going to be beautiful for Felix on Friday. Daniil Medvedev comes in playing incredible defense, and what the nemesis of Felix Auger-Aliassime is a guy that's going to get a lot of balls back because he is known to make a lot of errors, has some of the most talent on tour, has one of the biggest forehands on tour. But when you look at the consistency, it's simply not there. Medvedev won pretty close, against Felix Auger-Aliassime in Toronto 3 years ago. Both players have changed since that, or Medvedev's changed a lot since then. He's gotten a lot better. Felix is probably the same guy. I just think that his returning here, Felix has relied a lot on his serve. Medvedev is a very hard guy to ace. I think he's going to make Felix play a lot of points. It's not going to go well for him. And I like the under here, 36.5 games. I think Medvedev wins in straight sets. I'd also look at that prop as well.
All right, what is your favorite bet for the second men's semifinal? It's Djokovic, minus 260, looking for the men's Grand Slam record versus Alexander Zverev. What do we think?
Zverev. This is
German.
another difficult one, right? Because Zverev just got him in Tokyo at the Olympics. Djokovic was up in the deciding set, and Zverev managed to come back and win very decisively, a lot of consecutive games. So a lot of people, he's a hot upset pick here. A lot of people think that Zverev can get it done. I just don't know if he really can, given Novak Djokovic's level against Matteo Berrettini. He's really started to pick it up. It seemed like he just kind of didn't care for the first few rounds. Just kind of let a bunch of opponents get a set off him and come back. I think that Djokovic here can win pretty convincingly. I think that he's very, very vengeful against Zverev. I think that he's going to come out with a vengeance. He started slow the last 3 matches. He's not going to start slow against Zverev. This is a match he wants to get out in front of. I like him minus 3.5 games here, Jesse. I think that he wins here by a decent margin.
All right. Kenny, thank you. That is a show, folks, but we're not done for the day. There's still Madden to be played, and the slate will be live at 5 p.m. Eastern time with Adam Kaufman and Reed Fowler, so tune in for that. And then tune again tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern for another edition of The Sweat. Enjoy the game tonight. Football's back, baby.